Morbid facts. In 1959, a white man named John Howard Griffin disguised himself as a black man and traveled through the Deep South for 6 weeks. After writing a book about his experiences with racism, he was forced to move to Mexico for several years due to the barrage of death threats. Albert Einstein died at the age of 76 after refusing to undergo surgery on his heart. He was quoted saying, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share, it's time to go. I will do so elegantly." In September of 1974, 18-year-old Mila Kokostick was lured to a 12th-floor apartment by 5 men who attempted to assault her. When given the chance, she decided to jump from the apartment window and fell about 120 feet onto a cafe awning below. She died 2 days later, but was conscious for long enough to give police a full description of the awful incident. This pic shows Thomas Whitaker on the right celebrating his college graduation with his mom Patricia and brother Kevin. But in reality, Thomas flunked out of school and devised a plan so that his family would never find out. When they returned home the same night this photo was taken, a gunman hired by Thomas ambushed the family, killing Kevin and Patricia and wounding the father Ken. Thomas was initially sentenced to death for the 2 murders, but in 2018 he was spared just 40 minutes before his execution. Turns out his father forgave him and requested for his only remaining family member to not be executed. In 1991, Nigerian prophet Daniel Abadunrin apparently wanted to recreate the story of Daniel in the Bible, so he broke into a lion cage at the zoo with the belief that God wouldn't allow them to open their mouths. But as soon as the lions saw Daniel, they tore him to shreds. These are some morbid facts about Jeffrey Dahmer. When Dahmer became obsessed with animal corpses by the age of 4, his chemist father was proud that Jeffrey appeared to have found a scientific passion. So he showed his son how to properly clean and preserve animal bones with bleach, the methods for which Dahmer would eventually use on humans. To keep them under his control, Dahmer not only drugged his victims, but even attempted to turn some of them into sex zombies. He would drill holes in their heads and pour hydrochloric acid inside while they were still alive. When police finally investigated Dahmer's apartment, the chief examiner said it was more like dismantling a museum than an actual crime scene. It was so full of mangled corpses that Dahmer ran out of room and had to store one in his bathtub, meaning he had been showering over a dead corpse every morning. In 2006, 2 Australian miners who were trapped in a cave requested an iPod containing songs by the Foo Fighters. Upon hearing about this, lead singer Dave Grohl wrote a note to them saying, "I want you to know that when you come home, there's 2 tickets to any food show anywhere and 2 cold beers waiting for you." The men were rescued a few days later, and the Foo Fighters even wrote a song about them. The movie 50 First Dates inspired a real-life early dementia treatment across America. Every morning, patients are shown a video message of support from loved ones, just like the video at the end of the movie. In 2019, a Florida man accidentally locked his 1-year-old baby inside of his hot car. That's when 5 nearby prisoners out on work detail came to the rescue with a coat hanger to break her out. The mother who recorded a video of it said, "Them prisoners bust that shit right open. Thank God for the criminals in the world." When Christopher Reeve was left paralyzed after a horse riding accident, Robin Williams was one of the first people to visit him in the hospital. Dressed as a doctor with a thick accent, he told Reeve he was there to give him a rectal exam, causing him to laugh for the first time in weeks. When the Titanic sank in 1912, there were 3 dogs that made it safely onto a lifeboat and ended up surviving. In 1998, American father John Crowley was told that his 2 babies had an incurable genetic disorder that would kill them in less than a year. But John refused to accept this, so he launched a biotech company even though he had no prior experience in the field. The company would go on to create an experimental enzyme therapy that would save the lives of his kids and many others. Nearly 25 years later, both of them are still alive today. A couple from the UK was renovating their 300-year-old home in 2019 when they discovered something amazing under their kitchen floor. It was a cup filled with 264 rare coins, some dating back as early as 1610. The collection's expected to sell for around $300K at auction next month. In Hocus Pocus, Sarah Jessica Parker played a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials. Years later, the actress found out that her 10th great-grandmother was actually accused of witchcraft in Salem 1692. Sodium nitrate is the secret ingredient that will turn any cheese into a creamy nacho cheese sauce. by pure coincidence, sodium nitrate's chemical formula spells out the word nacho. The Secret Service agent who saved Ronald Reagan's life was inspired to become an agent after watching The Secret Service, a 1939 film starring Ronald Reagan as a Secret Service agent. Proof that animals are evolving, the mugger crocodile has learned that birds require sticks to build their nests. So they've been documented balancing sticks on their head, waiting to snatch a bird that tries to pick one up. It's the first known example of a reptile using tools. On multiple occasions, an orangutan named Fu Manchu escaped from his enclosure at the Omaha Zoo using a key fashioned out of a piece of wire. Every time the baffled zookeepers inspected him, he would hide the key in his mouth. Prairie dogs have the most complex language out of any animal that's been decoded. Instead of just a call for danger, their calls can differentiate humans, eagles, hawks, coyotes, dogs, and more. A study once found that they can communicate "here comes the short human in yellow" as opposed to the tall human in blue. Back in June, a 3-year-old boy named Riker Webb wandered off from his family's yard in Montana and went missing in the wilderness for 2 days. This photo was taken when he was miraculously found alive in a shed more than 2 miles away from his home. Authorities say he was extremely lucky considering the valley he was found in is riddled with mountain lions and bears. In the heat of COVID, an Asian man was arrested for training his pit bull to drop bricks on people who rang his doorbell. Attack of the Dead Men was a World War I battle during which the Germans bombarded the Russians with a mixture of poisonous gases. The effects were so devastating that the Russians coughed up pieces of their own organs and their skin started dissolving. The zombie-like appearance was so horrifying to the 7,000 Germans that they gave up the battle and ran. For 24 years, Missouri woman Dee Dee Blanchard pretended that her daughter Gypsy had multiple chronic conditions. She claimed her daughter suffered from leukemia, asthma, muscular dystrophy, and had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. Dee Dee forced her to stay in a wheelchair and act disabled, subjecting her to many unnecessary surgeries and medications. Gypsy was often fed through a feeding tube and supplied air through an oxygen tank. Her mother also regularly shaved the girl's head to give her the appearance of a cancer patient. Whenever Gypsy suggested that she wasn't actually sick, her mother would physically harm her. In 2015, Gypsy was finally tired of her mother's horrific abuse and sent her boyfriend to stab Dee Dee 17 times in the back. Today, Gypsy is still serving out her 10-year sentence after pleading guilty to second-degree murder of her abusive mother. Shortly after returning from the moon, Buzz Aldrin fell into deep depression and addiction. He was quoted saying, "I wanted to resume my duties, but there were no duties to resume. There was no goal, no sense of calling, no project worth pouring myself into." Police in Pakistan are searching for a religious healer who reportedly convinced a pregnant woman that hammering a 2-inch nail into her skull would help her give birth to a boy. The woman became desperate after her husband threatened to divorce her if she gave birth to another girl for the 4th time. Lucy Studi from Iowa claims that her late father was a serial killer who murdered up to 70 women throughout the 70s and 80s. She told authorities that the man forced his kids to help bury the bodies, many of them thrown into a well that's since been filled in. Police aren't exactly sure how to approach it, especially since Lucy's sister says she's lying about the whole thing. Here are some disturbing facts about Halloween. On one October night in 1997, someone managed to impale a pumpkin on top of McGraw Tower at Cornell University. The tower is more than 170 feet tall, so no one knows how the prankster did it to this day. Many shelters won't allow black cats to be adopted around Halloween time out of fear that they might be tortured or sacrificed. In many cities across the U.S., registered sex offenders are required to keep their lights off during Halloween. Contrary to popular belief, there has never been a single reported case of kids being poisoned by Halloween candy from their neighbor. The only confirmed case involved a father who laced his son's pixie sticks with cyanide so that he could cash in on his life insurance. The largest known Easter Island statue was carved but never dug out from the ground. It would have stood at 72 feet tall and weighed up to 360,000 pounds. With the largest standing statue being only 33 feet tall, it's likely that this one was simply far too big to erect. In the year 1916, an Ottoman supply train was ambushed by Lawrence of Arabia in the middle of the Arabian desert, where it still lies today. Here's a comparison of the coronation gloves of Queen Elizabeth I from 1559 and Queen Elizabeth II from 1953. There are 5 temples in Kyoto, Japan where you can find ceilings that are stained with blood. They're made from the floorboards of Fushimi Castle, which was attacked by an army of 40,000 men in the year 1600. Greatly outnumbered and facing defeat, Torimoto Tada and his remaining 380 samurai warriors took their own lives, pouring blood all over the floor. A chimpanzee from Zambia was observed wearing a piece of grass in her ear for no apparent reason. But after other members of her group started copying her, researchers soon realized that this was the first fashion statement observed in the wild. In Moscow, Russia, packs of stray dogs have been known to send out a smaller, cuter member to beg for food. They apparently understand that it will be more successful than a bigger, less attractive member of the pack. Octopuses are considered to be the smartest invertebrate animals on the planet. On 3 separate occasions, Otto the octopus caused a power outage at his aquarium by climbing to the edge of his tank and shooting a jet of water at a bright light. He's also been seen juggling hermit crabs, throwing rocks at the glass, and rearranging the surroundings of his tank. Gu Lagoon. This underwater river can be found in Mexico's Cenote Angelita. It's filled with hydrogen sulfide, which is more dense than salt water, creating a whole new layer of flowing water. The Onagadori is a historic Japanese breed of chicken known for its ridiculously long tail. It's considered to be a special national treasure of Japan since only about 250 exist. Diagonal witch windows exist almost exclusively in the state of Vermont. They come from a superstition that says witches can't fly their broomsticks through tilted windows. Under insanely rare circumstances, there's a chance that a roll cloud can turn spherical. This one was observed in Japan in 2016. Thought to be extinct for over 3 decades, the starry night harlequin toad was officially rediscovered in 2019. The unique-looking toad can only be found in a sacred location in the forests of Colombia. Here are some of the oldest things in the world. The first known photograph of a person was taken in 1838. It only happened because a man and his shoe shiner were the only people still enough on a busy street to show up in the 10-minute exposure. Found along an ancient Greek colony along the Nile River, the oldest known pair of socks are 1,600 years old. They're made out of red wool and were designed to be worn with sandals. The Nishiyama Hotel in Japan is considered to be the oldest hotel in the world. It's been managed by the same family over 52 generations and has been operating since the year 705. Dated to 1504, this carved ostrich egg is the oldest known depiction of the New World. The globe shows North America as an unnamed group of scattered islands. It contains depictions of ships and monsters and even includes the phrase Hic sunt dracones, which translates to Here lies dragons. Here are some morbid facts about President JFK. When JFK was assassinated, he was wearing a corset to help with his chronic back pain. Experts say it likely restricted his body and prevented him from ducking down after the first shot. JFK's little sister Rosemary suffered from seizures and mood swings throughout her childhood. In response, her father arranged for a lobotomy when she was 23 and the surgery was botched. It left her unable to speak and permanently incapacitated until her death in 2005. The car in which JFK was assassinated was cleaned up and repurposed back into rotation. It served as the presidential limo for Johnson, Nixon, Ford, and Carter following JFK's death. In 1966, Kennedy's brain was stolen from the National Archives and has been missing ever since. Some theorize that it was stolen to hide the truth about his murder, while others believe that his brother Robert took it to conceal the number of medications that the president was on. It's extremely rare for axolotls to go through a phase called morphing, where they lose their gills and webbed feet and essentially evolve into a land creature. But it still happens occasionally as a result of dormant genes from their ancestors, like what happened to this one named Gollum. Found only in the swamps of southern Missouri, dragon scale calcite looks like it came straight out of Game of Thrones. Someone accidentally deleted important photos from their camera, so an image recovery software brought them all back, including this test shot where the camera was assembled in China. This rare tomahawk steak appears to have been cooked to perfection. In certain parts of England, you can find these wavy brick fences. This shape actually uses fewer bricks than a normal brick wall, since it only requires one layer of bricks to make it sturdy thanks to the arch support provided by the wavy pattern. Peo the French Stallion is a 16-year-old therapy horse that provides comfort to patients suffering from terminal cancer. Each day he chooses which patients he wants to visit by kicking his hoofs outside their doors. This blind pregnant woman got her ultrasound 3D printed and was overcome with joy. In 2005, a bald eagle was shot in the face by a poacher, causing her to lose her beak. She struggled to eat anything and was on the verge of starving until a non-profit organization gave her a 3D printed prosthetic beak, making her even more badass than ever before. In 2020, a woman from Vancouver had a teddy bear stolen from her which had a voice recording of her deceased mother who passed away from cancer. But after celebrities like Ryan Reynolds offered a cash reward and helped make the story go viral, the teddy bear was soon found and returned. In the 1990s, FBI agent Robert Hansen was assigned the task of finding a double agent within the FBI. It was later discovered that Hansen was the mole they were looking for and had been working with the KGB since 1979, in what was quite possibly the worst intelligence disaster in US history. He's now serving out 15 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Oscar the Cat served on 3 World War II battleships, 1 German and 2 British. All 3 ships were sunken during battles, but the cat miraculously survived each time by floating on wooden planks. He was later nicknamed Unsinkable Sam. Former NFL player Dylan McCullough was adopted in 1973 and reunited with his birth mother in 2017. She then revealed the name of his father, who turned out to be his coach and mentor throughout his life without either of them having any idea they were related. The first ever case of biofluorescence in Tasmanian devils was documented just last year at Ohio's Toledo Zoo. While typically observed in fish, this phenomenon has also been seen in certain squirrels, possums, and platypuses. It's unclear what purpose this incredible trait serves in land mammals, but scientists think it might be a way for them to identify each other and attract mates in the dark. Ken Allen the orangutan escaped from his exhibit at the San Diego Zoo at least 9 separate times in the 1980s. His apparent goals included observing other animals, throwing rocks at his orangutan rivals, and happily taking photos with tourists. Baffled by his continuous ability to escape, the zoo was forced to spend over $40,000 to eliminate any possible escape routes in his enclosure. Ken famously earned himself the nickname the Hairy Houdini. These are some morbid facts about Charles Manson. Charles Manson's mother didn't even bother giving him a name. When nurses handed her the paper, she wrote no name, and Manson's birth certificate read no name Maddox until his death. After his mother spent 3 years in prison, she came home and hugged Charles for the first and only time. He later said that this hug was the only happy memory from his childhood. When 32-year-old Manson was released from prison in 1967, he requested to stay behind bars. He'd spent nearly half his life in jail and saw it as his only true home. Authorities denied his refusal, and Manson started his cult shortly after he was freed. On August 9, 1969, Manson instructed 3 of his cult members to kill everyone inside the home of a record executive whom Charles claimed had double-crossed him. But what Manson didn't know was that the executive wasn't there and instead rented out the property to his friends Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. A little girl from Seattle became friends with a group of crows that she feeds in exchange for gifts. The items they bring her are typically shiny and have included pieces of glass, buttons, and even lost jewelry. It's one of the first recorded cases of birds giving gifts to humans. In fact, crows are one of the smartest non-primate animals on the planet. Research has shown that they're aware of what they know and can ponder the content of their own minds, a level of analytical thought that scientists used to think only belonged to humans and higher mammals. They've discovered the use of basic tools, understand how stoplights and vending machines work, and have long-term facial recognition skills, meaning if you piss off a crow, it can end up holding a grudge against you for years. Crows have even been known to hold funerals and will avoid areas that are deemed dangerous for birds, meaning they understand the concept of death and fear it. This photo of Sean and Michael McQuilkin was taken at Sequoia National Park just seconds before they were struck by lightning in 1975. All 3, including their photographer sister, survived the strike, but younger brother Sean suffered 3rd-degree burns and spent nearly 6 months in a coma after having an allergic reaction to asthma medicine in 2009. Tennessee woman Shanina Isom has been suffering from a mysterious skin condition that causes her to grow fingernails in place of her hair. In 2004, 200 women armed with kitchen knives stormed into an Indian courthouse before stabbing and murdering Aku Yadav, a gang leader, serial killer, and rapist who kept escaping his sentencing due to bribes. Every single woman later claimed responsibility for killing him. New Zealand broadcaster Orini Kaipara is the first TV journalist in the world with a face tattoo. It's a traditional face marking worn by female descendants of the Maori, the indigenous Polynesian people of what is now New Zealand. Here's a rare view of Niagara Falls when it was completely dried up in 1969 for the first time in 12,000 years. Knickers the Australian steer has been deemed too big to be slaughtered. Standing at 6'4" and weighing nearly 3,000 pounds, the cow is so massive that it wouldn't even fit in the butchering equipment. Sadly, this other cow wasn't so lucky since it was turned into a deliciously rare flank steak. In 2015, an 87-year-old Chinese woman visited doctors to address the 5-inch horn growing out of her forehead that began as a mole. It's made out of the same material as fingernails and can be easily trimmed down in the same way. When a predatory producer assaulted one of her friends, Carrie Fisher sent him a Tiffany box with a severed cow tongue inside. She also left a note inside that read, "The next delivery will be something of yours in a much smaller box." When Britain changed the packaging of Tylenol to blister packs instead of bottles, the suicide rate from Tylenol declined by nearly 50%. Anyone who wanted a lethal dose of 50 pills now had to push them out one by one instead of easily dumping them out from a bottle. In 2013, a 60-year-old Japanese truck driver found out he was accidentally switched at birth in a Tokyo hospital in 1953. His biological parents were very wealthy, and the infant who took his place grew up to own a successful real estate company. Meanwhile, the original son was raised by a poor single mother and struggled with poverty throughout his entire life. The short-faced bear was once the most abundant bear in all of North America until it went extinct around 11,000 BC. Some scientists argue that these massive bears delayed human migration into North America because they kept killing men trying to cross the Bering Strait. Heart Attack Grill is a restaurant in Las Vegas where customers over 350 pounds eat for free. The only vegan option on the menu is cigarettes, and up to 3 people have died from heart attacks while eating there. In 1940, Walt Disney hired 11 little people to dress up as Pinocchio and wave to people at the movie's premiere. He left them on a theater balcony with enough food and wine for the day, but there was no way for them to get down. By late afternoon, they had all taken off their thick, sweaty costumes and were naked, drunk, and swearing at parents and their children. While shooting a Pepsi commercial in 1983, Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire, resulting in permanent hair loss. But instead of suing Pepsi, he asked them to fund the creation of a burn center. In 2014, an Australian vet performed a 45-minute surgery on a pet goldfish named George. His owners were quite attached to him, so they paid to have a tumor removed from his head. When Paul Walker's daughter got married, Vin Diesel walked her down the aisle in place of her late father. In 2020, Italian policemen used a Lamborghini Huracan to deliver a donor kidney for an emergency transplant 300 miles away. They completed the trip in 2 hours while it normally would have taken 6. Mr. Rogers personally responded to every fan letter he ever received. A 5-year-old blind girl once asked if he could say when he's feeding the fish because she was worried about them starving. From that point on, every time he fed the fish, he said it out loud. Voice of Mr. Potato Head Don Rickles died before he could record any dialogue for Toy Story 4. But instead of replacing him, Disney reviewed 25 years of content and were able to reassemble enough dialogue to cover the entire film. When Sharon Osbourne was sick with cancer and giving up, Ozzy asked Robin Williams to come visit. He randomly hopped in her sick bed and her family went from crying to laughing hysterically. Robin cheered her up so much that she went back to chemo the very next day. Filming for Blade Trinity, Jessica Biel was instructed to shoot an arrow directly at the camera that was more than 60 feet away. It was protected by plexiglass except for a 2x2-inch square in front of the lens, which Biel managed to hit with a direct bullseye, thus destroying the $300,000 camera. Just hours after the death of Nintendo CEO Satoru Iwata, a rainbow appeared over the Nintendo headquarters. Fans dubbed it the Rainbow Road to Heaven. In the year 1506, a 1,000-year-old statue was discovered in Rome, but it was missing an arm, so the Pope set up a contest to see who could come up with the best recreation of the missing arm. Michelangelo's version lost, but 400 years later the original arm was found and had been sculpted in the exact same position that Michelangelo designed. While filming the final scene of the movie Kingpin, where Bill Murray's character bowls 3 strikes in a row, Bill Murray actually did bowl 3 strikes in a row. His celebration along with the crowd's roaring applause were both genuine reactions. An adopted man from Michigan had been searching for his birth mother for 4 years before finding out she'd been working at the same Lowe's as him the entire time. Founder of the Ferrari company, Enzo Ferrari, died on August 14, 1988. Just 1 month later, on October 15th, Arsenal football player Mesut Ozil was born. Someone took this pic of an albino peacock at the exact time that it flew over a regular one, making it look like its spirit was exiting its body. Famous Austrian composer Arnold Schoenberg had extreme triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13. He ended up dying on Friday the 13th at the age of 76.